Fight fans, welcome to the PBC podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome everyone to the PBC podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
And I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
We're glad to have you with us for another episode. This week we've got two undefeated fighters joining us. WBC Super Bantamweight champion Brandon Figueroa, aka the Heartbreaker, plus one of the hottest young fighters in the game, Prime Time. Chris Colbert will drop by as well. And of course, we're going to recap last weekend's action, look ahead to Saturday night, and in today's toe-to-toe segment, Mike and I will list our top 5 divisions in boxing today. So a lot for us to go over. And with that, we're going to jump right into the week in review. Last Saturday, undefeated two-time super middleweight world champion David Benavidez returned to his hometown of Phoenix to take on contender Karan Davis at Footprint Center in a PBC on SHOWTIME headliner. And Benavidez didn't disappoint. Stopped the gutty Davis in 7 rounds and made his case for a big fight, in my opinion. Mike, did he make a strong enough case for that big fight?
Well, to assess what happened in the ring, I thought it was vintage David Benavidez. He walked the guy down in an intelligent manner, jabbed, pounded the body, broke the guy down, and stopped him in a brutal way. That's what he does. I use the term intelligent manner because I think he was responsible in his attack. He wasn't reckless. Davis landed only 54 punches total in the fight, according to CompuBox. That's not a big number for 6+ rounds. I think you have to take into account that Davis took the fight on 2 weeks' notice and isn't a big super middleweight. Still, that was an impressive performance by Benavidez. To answer your question, I thought he had the credentials to fight Canelo Alvarez before. He certainly didn't hurt his credentials, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think he's been making a case for a while now. You know, circumstances seem to get in the way in the past with, respect to him losing his title twice. But 2022 might be his year. Karan Davis didn't make it easy for Benavidez, though, Mike. I thought he showed a ton of heart.
Oh, man, I just have mad respect for Davis. He took a pretty thorough beating that got worse and worse as the fight progressed, but he was still fighting back like moments before the fight was stopped. The dude obviously doesn't have quit in him. And in spite of the one-sided nature of the fight, I think you could see that Davis has a lot of ability. That his draw with Anthony Durrell was no fluke. I think it's rare that the stock of a fighter doesn't plummet after a beatdown like he took, but I don't think it did in Davis's case. I think he's a good fighter, and I think that was kind of obvious in spite of what happened.
Yeah. Well, in your opinion, where does he go from here?
I think he's a viable opponent for the top guys in spite of, the setback on Saturday. I might not fight at 168 if I were him, though. He looked kind of small. He was at 160 as recently as early last year and like 154 not long before that. Maybe that's where he could campaign. He wouldn't have to deal with monsters like Benavidez, and he'd probably have more power at middleweight. Bottom line for me is I hope he gets another chance on a good-sized stage. I think we're going to see more from him.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you. I'd like to see him, get back down to 160 if he can. I think he could win a world title there. At maybe. 168, he suffers from that size disadvantage. But look, everything else he possesses. Karan Davis is a serious player in these middle divisions. Now, getting back to Benavidez, based on what you saw, does he beat Canelo Alvarez?
Well, I'm not sure my take on Benavidez versus Canelo Alvarez changed after Saturday night. I still think Benavidez is the toughest opponent for Alvarez below 175 pounds, and that actually might be including 75 pounds, but I'll say below. And I believe that Benavidez has a real chance to beat Canelo, certainly better than the guys that Canelo beat to become undisputed. He can box. I think he's underrated in that regard. He can punch, obviously. He's just relentless, and he seems unflappable to me. I don't think he'd be fazed at all by the big lights that you see when you fight a guy like Canelo Alvarez. I think that he's going to be breaking down Canelo while Canelo is trying to, break him down. Maybe it'll come down to who can take more punishment. I think it'd be a war, which we haven't seen from Canelo since the Triple G fights. To say that I love that matchup is an understatement.
Yeah, I mean, look, Benavidez, I think he has the offensive arsenal to make things extremely problematic for Canelo. However, I also
Yep.
think that there's some facets of his game that, I could see Canelo exploiting as well. So to your point, that's what makes this such a great fight. Um, it's a crowd pleasing fight. It's a matchup of two top fighters in the division. I sincerely hope we see it happen. Now, quick update in our prediction league standings have not changed. I'm 38-3. Mike is 29-9-3. One more note. On Saturday's card in the co-main, we saw David Benavidez's big brother, Jose Benavidez Jr., show plenty of ring rust following a 3-year layoff, battling Francisco Emmanuel Torres to a 10-round draw. And with that, it's time to bring in our first guest. He is the undefeated former 130-pound titleist, one of the best pure boxers in the game, Chris Primetime Colbert. Chris, first things first, how's everything been with you, your family, your team, and with you most of all?
I mean, I'm still alive, so I can't really complain. But life is life. I mean, can't. I'm blessed. Al Hammond been treating me very, very well. My team been treating me well. We go through ups and downs in life, but I'm still here, so I really can't complain.
That's good. That's good to hear. How about a primetime chicken? I saw you guys were closed for a bit for COVID. Is it back open again?
Yeah, we'll be opening. No, not yet. We'll be opening soon though. We had to get some things handled with the store before we could be able to open it again.
Okay, sounds good.
Now, the WBA mandated that you fight Roger Gutierrez for the 130-pound championship, and there are reports that it might happen in February. Is that the plan right now?
As of right now, I really can't tell you what's going on, but I think we supposed to be fighting the Robert Gutierrez guy. I don't really know much about him. I never ever seen him fight, but it is what it is. We're looking to get back in January, so hopefully we can stick to the plan. But whatever happens, happens. I'm down for anything. I'm down for the get down.
Nice.
So as of now, there's no specific date or site or anything like that?
No
Okay.
date.
Now, you said you haven't watched or seen anything as far as Gutierrez. Do you normally study tapes of your opponents before you fight?
Never.
Or
No, never.
what's the reason for that?
I mean, that just never was my style. Because I believe fighters could switch up. So like he could come in there, fight me one way, and then go in there and fight. He could afford his last fight one way, come in and fight me a whole other way.
Now,
At the end of the day, some fighters a smart fighter is going to do what they got to do to win.
Right. Now, Mike brought up the WBA. Early in the year, you were considered a title holder, and now they've essentially taken that away. How do you feel about that, and how does that affect you as a fighter?
I mean, I know what I did. The world know what I did. So a belt is really nothing. A belt don't mean these belts don't really make us. We make the belts at the end of the day. So, because without us fighting for these belts, them belts wouldn't be none. I don't even really care, to be honest. The same, I don't like paying the sanctioning fee anyway.
Love that.
They can have that shit.
That's great. That's great. Now, your name's been thrown around in a lot of potential fights. One rumor that we heard is possibly a fight with Gary Russell Jr. Was that ever on the table or something that was ever brought to you?
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely on the table. I was looking forward to that fight. I didn't really want this Robert Gutierrez fight. I wanted the Gary Russell fight because it was a big name and it would have really put me on the top of the top, like to say that I'm that guy. But it is what it is. We just got to roll with the punches and keep it moving.
Do you think that fight might still happen at some point, or?
Gary Russell's a great fighter, but he's only getting older, and I don't think when you get at a certain point, he's smart. That guy's smart. So I don't think you want to go with a live good dog at a certain age because it won't go too well.
So how do you see a fight between you and him playing out? Because that's a really interesting matchup.
I'm gonna beat him. I beat him easy, unanimous decision though.
Wow.
I mean, he's gonna come and do what he got to do. I know, because the guy hands is quick as hell. He's a hell of a champion, the longest reigning champion for the WBC, I think, right now.
Yep.
But he's a hell of a fighter. I watched him coming into boxing, to be honest, and I done seen him knock people out. But None of those guys is me. So, and I know what I'm capable of. I don't think he would be able to take the type of pressure that I'll bring to him.
Got it. We also saw back and forth you had with Shakur Stevenson a few weeks back, which made me wonder, in your opinion, does sparring a person before you fight them mean anything significant?
Absolutely not. But a person always going to say what they do in sparring, but they're never going to say when they get beat up in sparring or when they do bad in sparring. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like, I just don't go off that sparring stuff. He know what happened the last time we sparred. So I don't really let that sparring stuff get to my head or get to his head. If he feel like that's going to help him get the win, then by all means, bring that same game you bring to the sparring in.
So what happens in the gym and what happens in the ring in an actual fight are two completely different things.
Yeah. Because I'm going in there in a fight to win.
Right.
Sparring, you don't go in there to win.
Of course not.
Right. Now, looking ahead to 2022, you mentioned January. How often do you want to fight, and who might be the opponents that you're targeting?
Hopefully we get in 3 fights next year. Probably anytime Al Heyman got planned for me. But I'm definitely looking forward to that Gary Russell fight. I want that fight. He's definitely a live dog where I'm gonna have to be on 100% on tip-top shape for that fight. And I think he'll bring out the best of me.
Is that what it takes? Is it, like a big fight like that? Does that give you that extra motivation and, to be at your very best?
That definitely. I mean, the all fights, I'm always going to be good enough I go in there enough to win. You know what I'm saying? I go in there with the mindset of dominating, not just winning, dominating. But Gary Russell fight would definitely have me in there. Because knowing that he's a live dog, like I said, top, one of the top champions out there, longest reigning champion out there, I know I will have to come 100% prepared, or it wouldn't be a good day for me.
Are there any other fights you're looking at, or fighters, I should say?
I don't really got I never really had, based one fight, I want this fight so bad. It's always been they offer something to me, I say yeah, then I get excited about it. So now if it don't happen, then I'm excited about it. Oh man, now I gotta wait. The guy Russell was offered, I was excited. Now we're gonna see from there.
Do you see?
But, I'm willing to fight anybody, to be honest.
Do you see 2022 as sort of your breakout year?
To be honest, I don't know, to be honest. With this boxing, the way these boxing politics is, I don't know when they're gonna ever give me my credit. But I don't really care. As long as I make the money that I make and I keep winning, I'm gonna just continue doing that job, take care of my family and building a family and living my life.
Now, before, I remember you were shuttling back and forth between divisions. You sort of settled in at 130 now. With so many big fights at 135, do you plan to continue to stay at 130, or do you see yourself moving up soon?
No, I'm definitely going to move up to 135 eventually. But right now, I'm comfortable at my weight. There's no need for me to move up. But 135 is definitely a big weight class where there's a lot of big fights for me. And I'm down with the get down, like I said.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you've already proven that. I think fight fans know your resume. They know who you've beat.
I didn't prove it. They don't. I don't think they understand yet. But it's okay. Like I said, at the end of the day, I'm gonna keep doing what I do best, and that's being me. I dominate every fight that I go into. I never had a close fight, and I'm gonna continue to do that.
We can't wait to see you continue doing it. Thank you so much for taking the time. Of course, Chris, we look forward to seeing you get back in the ring. And, of course, as always, we look forward to having you back on here.
I appreciate y'all. Always. I really do appreciate y'all. Shout out to PBC, Al Heyman, my team, Social Crew, Showtime. Just for keep giving me the opportunity and the platform to shine.
Always good to catch up with Chris Colbert. Can't wait to see him back in the ring. Speaking of can't wait, Saturday night, undefeated welterweight titleist Terrence Bud Crawford takes on two-time champion Showtime Shawn Porter in a fantastic bout between two top 147 pounders. We'll start with Crawford. Mike, what are his advantages in this fight?
I think Crawford is just a better all-around fighter, although not by very much. I think Crawford is probably a little quicker than Porter, a little more skillful, and he's definitely punches harder than Porter does. And he has a nasty quality to him, which I think really worked in his favor, and it's something I've admired for as long as he's been around. Overall, I just think it's his ability to beat his opponents in so many different ways that make him so good.
Yeah, I think his technique, his speed, his power, and his length, actually got really long arms, which I think are a huge advantage for him. What about Shawn Porter? What advantages does Porter have in this fight?
Porter also is a really good all-around fighter, which he's proved over and over again throughout his career. I think if I had to pinpoint his main strength, it would be his motor, his ability to swarm his opponents for 12 full rounds. I mean, just so few guys can do what he does. And it's really difficult to stand up to that pressure and do what you want to do. As we saw in the Porter-Errol Spence fight, I mean, Spence really had to work to win that fight. He takes his opponents through hell, no matter who has his hand raised in the end.
Yeah, he sure does. And I think that motor is a huge, huge advantage for him. His strength, although Crawford is pretty strong, but Shawn, one of the strongest guys in the division. And I also think his experience at 147 could be an advantage for him. He's been in there with the top 147 pounders. That might be the difference. It might not. In your opinion, who should be the favorite heading into Saturday night?
Well, the odds makers have Crawford as a pretty significant favorite, and that sounds right to me. Right. Crawford is basically blown out everybody he's fought, so it's difficult to imagine anyone getting the better of him. The difference in this fight is that he's never fought anyone as accomplished as Porter, who's still a really good fighter. And so, yes, Crawford has to be the favorite. At the same time, this is the big test we've been waiting for. We're going to learn a lot in this fight.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's even. I would have expected the odds to be much, much closer, given the fact that it's, Shawn Porter, a two-time champion in his own right, who's been in there with the best. But hey, I mean, most people consider Crawford one of the two or three best fighters in the world. He's a three-division champion, former undisputed at 140, and as you said, dominated everyone he's faced. So I guess it makes sense. What's your prediction?
I have to go with Crawford. I think he's better than Porter, as I said earlier, and his motivation is just going to be off the charts because he's been waiting for this for such a long time. Again, I don't think it's going to be easy. Fighting Porter is hard any way you look at it. I just see Crawford being the ring general, if you will, keeping Porter off of him, at least to a good extent with his power shots, and then using his feet to sort of maintain the distance that he wants to be at. I think he frustrates and ultimately outboxes Porter to win a clear, unanimous decision. I want to add something, though. Some outlets have Crawford as much as a 6-1 or 7-1 favorite. That seems crazy to me. The odds should not be that wide. Porter is just too good and too experienced for the odds to be that wide.
Yeah, that is just kind of wild to me. Maybe they know something I don't know. Beats me, but I keep having this nagging feeling that whoever's going to win, that it's going to be a stoppage, that it's going to end inside the distance. And so, of course, I'm going with Shawn Porter on points.
Okay.
Despite that, just leaning on the safe side, I think this is an excellent matchup, a 50-50 matchup, a toss-up. I could see Crawford stopping Porter. I could see Porter stopping Crawford. But I think Shawn is going to outwork him. And I think if he's able to maintain his intensity, his pace for the full 12 rounds, he should hear his hand raised at the final bell. But Mike, this is, really it's a true 50-50 fight in my opinion. And again, no matter what, the fact that we're getting this fight to me means there are no losers regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, listen, for a fan, they're both 34 years old, I think. Maybe a fight like this should happen a little bit earlier, but I think both these guys are still really good. I am extremely excited about this fight, in part because we haven't seen Crawford against a guy like this, but just as a fan, two guys this good going at it, it just doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Cannot wait. Now it's time to bring in our next guest, who's also going to be in a pretty good fight himself in a couple weeks. He's the undefeated WBC World Super Bantamweight Champion. Saturday, November 27th, he'll attempt to unify 122-pound titles when he faces Cool Boy Stephen Fulton at the Park MGM in Las Vegas, live on Showtime. Again, one of the best matchups this year, and this man is one of the most exciting fighters in the sport, Brandon Figueroa. Brandon, we haven't heard much about your training for this fight. How has camp been for you?
Excellent. I know this fight, having COVID last time, kind of backtracked us a lot. And I mean, just being two weeks away from the fight, I mean, it was just frustrating to walk away from the camp like that. But, thank God we're okay. My family's okay. And, now we're back stronger than ever. And, now we're just 2 weeks away again. And we feel excellent. Training camp has been awesome. I've been feeling in the best shape. So I'm ready.
Now, did you try and get sparring partners that emulated Fulton, or was it more about getting rounds in and getting in shape?
No, yes, sir. Yeah, definitely. That's our game plan, is obviously trying to find fighters that emulate him, so we can have the best game plan going towards this fight. And we definitely found really good sparring partners, and so definitely it's gonna be a good fight. I know he studied me as well. But we're definitely coming in there with a different game plan. I feel like he was there in person to see me fight Neri. So I feel like each fight I'm getting better, and I bring something new to the table every time.
Brandon, give us your thoughts on Fulton as a fighter.
I think he's a great fighter. I don't underestimate him at all. He's a skillful fighter, tricky, slick fighter. He can box really well. So I feel like it's gonna be take me a few rounds just to figure him out. But once I do, then that's when I'm gonna start letting my punches go and get into my rhythm.
Now, the fight with Fulton was once discussed when you guys were prospects. Looking back, are you glad it didn't occur then and is happening now with both of you as title holders?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was always part of the plan. I'd never been scared of anyone. I've actually wanted to fight him when we were both prospects. The fight was brought up, and we always say yes. We always take every fight that's presented to us. But at that time, I don't know for whatever reason, I don't know if he wanted to fight me or what. It was after he fought Adam Lopez. We actually called out both, and they both didn't send the contract back. So I guess now that we're both champions, it makes more sense, and it has more of a story to it. So. Yeah, it makes it more interesting now.
Now, you're coming off what a lot of people saw as a breakthrough victory over Louis Neri in May. How much did that win mean to you and your career?
Oh, I mean, it meant a lot, especially because he had the whole backing of Mexico. He had a large reputation coming from the 118-pound division, and he was spectacular in that division. So just the way it ended in spectacular fashion for me, and just how everyone doubted me, the odds were against me. To me, none of that mattered. What mattered to me was fight night, and as you guys can tell, that was the only way it was gonna happen, is me winning.
Now, you kind of brought it up, but I think some people underestimate you because of your grinding style. Is that something you're just gonna have to live with, or do you think you're winning people over?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's just everyone's used to the Mayweather style, looking pretty, looking cute, looking flashy for the cameras and everything. But I don't care about none of that. I go out there to fight, and if people don't like that rough style, that Mexican style, then that's up to them. But I go out there to fight. I go out there to hurt my opponents and to rough them up, and give fans a fight. I never really had a boxing background. I never really had an amateur style. Ever since I was in amateurs, I've always had that professional style that was implemented by my dad. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like either people will start coming around or not. I mean, I just go out there to win and to fight.
Now, you could have taken a transitional opponent, or probably could have, but you jumped right into a major challenge against Fulton. Why did you choose to do that?
I mean, I don't know. I just love fighting. I love fighting the best, and just to be crowned a 3-time world champion, uh, before I turn 25. I mean, I feel like right now I'm at the best. I'm at the best peak in my career, and I'm just taking advantage. I'm taking advantage that bringing that old school boxing back, where champions would fight champions. It didn't matter if it was back to back. The point was just to fight the best, and that's the only way I'm gonna grow. I'm gonna learn, and as a fighter, and that's the only way to prove to people that you belong there. You belong with the top dogs. You belong with the world class level, and that's what I'm about. And like I said before, if you're not in boxing to take over, then I don't know why you're in boxing.
Love that. Now, I'm sure you know that a lot of people are picking Fulton to win, similar to when you fought Neary. How do you feel about playing the role of the underdog?
I mean, I don't really care about the bets, about the odds. It's just people that don't know really much about boxing. And obviously people are going to go with the flashier fighter, with the one that, that talks the most and this and that. But at the end of the day, when I get in the ring, I get into the fight, and that's what people miss the point. And I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm not with the antics. I don't really like to talk. I just like to just train and get in there and fight and do what I do best, which is just go in there and ruffle my opponents and dominate. That's really what I love to do is make these boxers look easy. And a lot of people think that I'm fighting the boxers and that they're easy or whatever, but I'm just, my hard work speaks for itself. That's it.
Got it. Is Fulton the toughest, your toughest challenge yet, at least on paper? And if so, why is that?
I mean, I feel like I fought a lot of tough opponents with more experience. I feel like Fulton, he's fought in great opponents, opponents that have been undefeated. But if you really check their track records, I mean, they really haven't fought anyone with the caliber that I fought. My opponents were former world champions. They were veterans. They've been in there with rough opponents. So I've been in there with opponents that have actually been in tough fights. And so I feel like that gives me more of an edge based off of opponents and the type of challenge that they brought to me, the obstacles. And I fought in boxers. I fought in brawlers. I fought in all types of fighters. And, and I've always come out on top. So with Stephen Fulton, he's no different. I mean, he definitely has skills. He moves well, but I don't think he's faced anyone close to me.
Now, you said you described Fulton as a skillful boxer. He's a good athlete. A lot of people don't think he has a ton of power. I tend to think your opponents better have power, or they're not going to be able to slow you down. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, of course. I'm coming forward, and like I hit hard. Both lefty, righty, with my left hand, with my right hand. I'm always on top of you. I'm always making sure that you don't get an inch of breath. So I'm excited. I'm just excited to get in there and mix it up. And I fought fighters that have power. I fought fighters that are fast, slick, that move around the ring. And the outcome is still the same. My hard work is always gonna outwork them. I basically just get in there and outwork them. And that's what happened to Neary. I took the fight to him and I just dominated him and tired him out. I broke him down and I got him out of there.
Is that the secret to catching up to a guy who can move and so forth? Is just that grind and the volume punching?
I mean, I feel like it takes a little bit more than that. I mean, it takes definitely knowing what you're doing inside the ring. And you just have to be a better fighter. Whether if you're fighting someone that's a boxer, then you gotta find ways to get in there. You gotta find ways to counter that. But yeah, I mean, it's just finding ways to counter that, and always, I mean, going in there in tremendous shape. That's the secret. Is always in your hard work. You gotta outwork everyone, your opponent, by 2 times fold just in case you need it in the fight. You know, you just never know. So that's why, you know, I always make sure that even though I never take a fighter lightly, I always make sure that I go in there well prepared.
No, you brought up your conditioning and so forth. You're always in great condition. You're also pretty tall and long for the division. How much longer do you plan to stay or think you can stay at 122?
Yeah, I think after this fight, this will definitely be my last fight at 122. You know, my body's growing. I'm getting more mature, and I'm getting older. You know, so I feel like my power is not taken away a lot at 122, but I feel like I can be more effective at 126.
Got it. So you don't think there's a chance that if a fight with Akhmadallah presented itself, you know, to become undisputed, that you might go for it?
I mean, I don't know yet. You know, we still have this fight to go. I mean, that would sound lovely to you know, do to accomplish, but you know, I feel like beating Neri, beating Fulton, when it happens. I mean, if things go my way, then I feel like I have nothing else to prove at the 172-pound division. I mean, finishing as a 3-time world champion to me is already an accomplishment itself, and you know, I just gotta, you know, take my accolades and move on to 126 and you know, start fighting the best there.
Okay, final question. Give us your prediction for Saturday, November 27th. Are you going to stop him?
Prediction, I feel like it'll be a late round stoppage, you know, just my relentless pressure. I just feel like my body work and my power will definitely, he would definitely feel it. And, you know, I feel like he underestimates me a lot. A lot of people do. But, you know, I just have to remind everyone that you know, I just go in there and fight. I love fighting. I love every aspect of boxing. I love getting hit. You know, I love everything. I love the hardships, the sacrifices. And I just feel like I said, my hard work will speak for itself. And you know, November 27th, everybody will see. And, you know, God willing, you know, Brandon Figueroa will become the 3-time world champion.
Oof, I like it.
Brandon, we know you're busy. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
It's time for Mike and I to go toe-to-toe, and this week we're going to list our top 5 divisions in boxing. Today, you always hear it's the welterweights or the featherweights or the lightweights or the light heavyweights, blah, 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 blah. But how many people really do their homework before saying that? Well, that's what Mike and I did. We're going to go, of course, in ascending order. Mike, the floor is yours.
Okay, as usual, I want to preface this just with a couple of takeaways, a couple of thoughts. One, it was an interesting exercise, and I think a good exercise for a fan, because it sort of gives you the lay of the land. You kind of get a good idea where things stand division by division, so it's really valuable in that sense. And it was interesting in a couple ways. I noticed how some divisions are a lot older than other divisions. You could see that the top guys are like on their way out, and in other divisions, the top guys are guys that are rising. That was one interesting thing. And the second thing that I noticed is that, you know, I was trying to differentiate between the divisions by looking at depth. And I noticed that really after you get past like 6, 7, or 8, you know, in the top 10 in each division, it really does start to taper off in almost every division. So the different divisions have different levels of depth, but I noticed that by the time you get down to 10 in all of them, pretty much, there's quite a drop off. So one last thing, what was the division? The division was Bantamweight. Somehow Bantamweight did not make my top 5. I mean, I think it could be as high as 2 or 3, you know, with Inoue and Donaire and Casimiro, but somehow it didn't make my list. But I wanted to give a shout out to Bantamweight. And now I will give you my number 5, which is, after all that, which is junior Bantamweight. The standard bearers in the 115-pound division are all like in the twilight of their careers, which is kind of what I was referring to before. But they're all still really good fighters. Guys like Juan Francisco Estrada, Roman Gonzalez, Sirsa Ketso Rungvisai, Carlos, I had to take a breath. Carlos Cuadras, Kazuto Ioka, and Donnie Nietes have given us like one war after the next over the years, and they're still producing. Maybe I have this division in my top 5 in part because of nostalgia, but I think these guys are still bringing it.
Yeah, I love that division, and I took a look at it. I felt it was a little too top heavy for my liking. So unfortunately, it did not make my list. My number 5 is the super welterweights. Now, what a stacked division this is. I mean, this could be number 1 on some people's list. You got Jermell Charlo, you've got Brian Castano, you've got Erickson Lubin, Sebastian Fundora, Tony Harrison, Jason Rosario, Julian Williams, did I mention Sebastian Fundora? Sebastian Fundora, Sergio Garcia, Tim Tszyu. I mean, the list just goes on. This is Charles Conwell, a very underrated fighter. Carlos Adames. I don't know how long he's going to stay at 154. It's a stacked division, in my opinion, and worthy to be on this list.
I think you said super middleweight. You meant junior middleweight, and I
super welterweight. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, maybe you did. I don't know. And anyway, we're talking about the same division.
Yeah.
I agree with you. That's why it's on my list, but it's a little bit higher. So I'll talk about that in a few minutes.
All right, let's go to number 4 then. Should I kick this one off or
go for it?
All right, my number 4 is the lightweights, another stacked division. Teofimo Lopez, Gervonta Tank Davis, Devin Haney, Jojo Diaz, Richard Comey, Vasily Lomachenko, Jorge Linares, Michel Rivera, of course, Ryan Garcia, Isaac Cruz, Lee Selby, George Kambosos, if you want to add him. Another stack list. You mix any of those guys up, you got a great fight.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it's a little higher on my list, which is interesting that we have some of the same divisions, but they're in different
order,
right? Right. So my number 4 is, I'll talk about that when the time comes. So my number 4 is junior featherweight. There's a lot going on at 122, which has been a good division for a long time. Brandon Figueroa and Stephen Fulton, 2 prime young guys, are fighting to unify 2 titles. Murajan Akhmadayev, who holds the other 2 belts, showed what he could do in a victory over Daniel Roman. I think Roman is as good as the top guys. Angelo Leo lost his title to Fulton, who's just so talented, but I think that Leo will be back. Maybe the same for Luis Neri, who lost to Figueroa, and I like Rais Salim. So I think it's a really, really strong division.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, and that's why it is my number 3 division. You listed all the guys: Figueroa, Fulton, Alim, Akhmadayev, Roman, Carlos Castro, Ronnie Rios, Luis Neri, Angelo Leo, you mentioned. I mean, this is as good as it gets. Who do you have for your number 3?
My number 3 is your number, what was it, 4? Junior middleweight or super welterweight, depending on how you want to look.
Number 5, yeah, my number 5.
5, okay. One thing I like about this division is that the top guys are smack in the middle of their primes. Guys like Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano, who just gave us a memorable war. I think Tim Tszyu, another young guy, is poised to do some big things. Same for Erickson Lubin and Sebastian Fundora. And even though guys like Tony Harrison and Julian Williams have had problems of late, I think they're still good fighters. Yeah, I love this division.
Yeah, stacked division. And what I love most about it is that they've been fighting each other.
That's another thing.
Yeah, that's what makes it so great, in my opinion. Now, my number 2 is the welterweights. Now, you've got Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Crawford, Sean Porter, Yordenis Ugas, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Virgil Ortiz, Jaron Ennis, Radza Butayev, Iman Stanionis, Abdul Kakrov, Abel Ramos, on and on and on and on and on. Good case for number 1 right here.
So we agree on this one. My number 2 is welterweight. I wasn't, which is really makes me wonder about number 1. I wasn't sure where to rank the 147-pound division. It has more big names than any other division, but it's also an aging division, as I referred to earlier. A number of the top guys are over 30. I still think they're formidable, though. It's hard to top.
Yeah.
You went over the list: Spence, Crawford, Porter, Ugas, Thurman, Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Stanionis, Jaron Ennis. Go on and on and on and on, like you said. And it's always been a glamour division, and I think it still lives up to that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And look, I mean, still some young guys on there. You've got Ennis, you got Ortiz, you got Stanionis, guys on the come up, and I expect that some of those top 140-pounders will be up there as well. Now, let's move to number 1. I guess I will I should probably go first. Now, this probably a little unconventional, and I'm surprised I reached this. I don't look at this division the same way I look at others, but when I do look at it, I go, man, this division is underrated. Man, this division is pretty good, and that is the heavyweight division. You got Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. Oh, you want to talk about skills? How about Alexander Usyk, Anthony Joshua, Dillian White, Joe Joyce, Frank Sanchez, Robert Helenius, Daniel Dubois, Luis Ortiz, Charles Martin, Philip Hergovich. I mean, Otto Wallin. You have, a smorgasbord of different fighters, different styles, different advantages, different disadvantages for each one. I truly think that this heavyweight era is underrated, Mike.
Yeah, I think, I considered the heavyweight division. I'll tell you why I didn't include it in my top 5. Because I think in terms of star power and entertainment value, it's kind of hard to top the heavyweight division. I think it's pretty much always been that way. And there are some good fighters. I mean, Fury, Usyk, Wilder, Joshua. I just think after you get to about the middle of the top 10, there's a significant drop off.
I forgot to add Andy Ruiz, by the way, another top.
Right. No. There's a lot of solid heavyweights, but I think there's a drop off. So I mean, if I'm going to compare the divisions pound for pound, I just thought that the heavyweight division probably, I don't know, fell somewhere between like 7 and 9 or something like that. But it's always been a fun division, and it's always going to be a fun division.
Now, who do you have at number one?
My number one's lightweight.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is the current glamour division. It's deep. It has young stars, and there's a lot of charisma in this division. You start with Teofimo Lopez, who I think was the first of the young guys to break out with his victory over Vasily Lomachenko to become undisputed. He fights George Kambosos next. You mentioned Kambosos. Tank Davis probably will turn out to be the best of the bunch at this weight. Love watching him fight. I think he could end up dominating here. And then there's Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, assuming he comes back, Jojo Diaz, Rolly Romero, less evolved guys like Michel Rivera.
Yeah.
And finally, I think Lomachenko has more in the tank than people might think.
I agree.
I wouldn't sleep on him. So, I mean, these are all not only are they good young fighters, except for Lomachenko, they're also really compelling and really entertaining. So love the lightweight division.
Yeah, you don't love them that much, or you would have mentioned Richard effing Comey. How dare you mention the lightweight division without mentioning Richard Comey?
You just told me, you just said that tongue in cheek, which I appreciate. But I'll give it to Comey in terms of the entertainment value. I mean, there are many guys who are more fun to watch than Richard Comey.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's throw him in there.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the hardest hitters in the game, a wild card. So and makes the lightweight division, fun. It's a great division. No doubt about it. I do want to see them fight each other a little more. I think that's what we're waiting on, but the potential there is it's tantalizing. So I certainly understand where you're coming from when it comes to the lightweight division. Lots of good divisions in the sport. I mean, just doing this list, you could sort of see that. But I think we're pretty close on who the 5 best are. I mean, even your number 5 was probably 6th on my list. So there are some clear standouts.
Yeah, again, it was a fun exercise, and I would say 2/3 of the divisions, maybe more, are pretty strong. Actually, It's almost like it's been divided up, by nature. A couple of divisions where I'm like, you really don't have much of a chance to make the list, but a lot of them, I really had to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I hope fight fans do appreciate the era that they're in. And quite frankly, there's always something good going on in boxing, no matter the era. That will do it for this week's show. We want to thank Brandon Figueroa and Chris Colbert for joining us, and we want to thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check back next week for more boxing chatter, more interviews right here on the PBC podcast.